To understand the difference between journals and ledgers, let's start by having a look at the functional table types. So what I see here on these two slides is that we have different table types. We have master tables like customer vendor item, supplemental tables, language currency, setup tables, and documents. And this is the master data, and I can use that master data to create documents. At a certain moment in the posting process, journal lines will be created either manually by a user or via posting process, a document posting. And those journal lines will be converted into ledger entries. So we can see we have journal tables, ledger entry tables, register tables which will summarize those, and I also have document history tables. Now if you have a closer look at our journal tables from a technical point of view, what we'll notice is that the purpose of these tables is to enable the entry of transactions into the system. The name of the table is typically the name of the type of transaction we are performing, and then the word journal line. The primary key of a journal table is compound. It is consisted out of the journal template, journal badge, and a line number. And to enter data into journal tables, we typically create a worksheet page, and by using the auto split key property, we'll be able to do data entry. So let's have a look at a typical journal in the application, and what I will do is look for the available journals. Now, if you type in journal in the search box, and what you notice is the general journal, and we also have sales and purchase journals, and so on. So from this list, you can select a journal that you would like to use. So for example, if I would go here to sales journals, I will get an overview of the different sales journals templates we have available. If I select the sales template, a page opens in which I can do data entry. I can enter information in this journal line table. For example, I can select to sell something to a customer, use a GL account, and so on. From a technical point of view, let's have a look at the resource journal line table. And if we take the table into design, we'll notice that the table has a number of fields. And if we focus on the primary key of the table, you will notice that the key is compound out of 3 fields: the template name, the batch name, and the line number. In the journal line table, we will find some functions and triggers and a lot of functions available. I will come back and talk about those later. And we also have a number of fields. As we can see, we have the template name, the line number, which is an integer, the entry type, which is an option in this case for resources. With different option members. We have a document number, a posting date, because we're talking about the resource journal line table. I also have the resource number and the resource group, and so on. So what you see typically about this table is that we have a compound primary key. We have a lot of other fields in here, and it will be the line number that will increment to be able to create multiple lines that belong to the same journal. A ledger table, if you have a closer look at those, then we'll see that the purpose of a ledger entry table is to contain posted transactional information, typically with a link back to the register table. Now, a ledger table is a protected table, which means we can't do data entry in it directly. And the name of a table is typically the name of the corresponding master table, followed by the word ledger entry, which might be abbreviated. The primary key is an entry number field, and pages we typically use are list pages which are not editable. Let's have a look together at the ledger entry table in this system, and I'll start, for example, from a customer. I can start from the customer card or from the customer list, and then typically in the menu under navigate might also be somewhere else. You will see an action, so you can open the ledger entries, in this case for this customer. The window opens containing the customer ledger entries for this customer. Let me make it a little bit wider, and here I can see a history of all of the invoices, payments, which have been sent to this customer. I can see the complete history, I can see the posting date, document type, document number, and these are all posted entries. And I'm looking right here at the customer ledger entry table. For example, I can also do that for other master data fields. So if I would go here to an item, then starting from the item card or item lists, I will also have the possibility to have a look at the ledger entries. So I'm opening the card, and what I will try to do here is go to navigate and then select the entries. In this case, we have also ledger entries for items. And for the armchair, I only have the one entry right here, which is a sales shipment. But for this item, I will be able to see the complete history of all transactions in the item ledger entry table. Here we see an example of the resource ledger entry table. The table has a drill down and lookup page ID, so it can be looked up or drilled down onto from other pages. There are some fields in here. I'll focus on the primary key field, which in this case is the entry number. And the table also has lots of secondary keys, making it easier to filter on the table and use it in reports. There are some functions available, but more importantly, if we have a look at the available fields, I can see the entry number. In this case, also an entry type, a document number containing information about the posted document and when it was posted. Because here we are in the resource ledger entry, I can also see the resource number and so on. And this gives you an overview on the different available fields in the typical ledger entry table. Then we also have registered tables. Now, a registered table typically is a table of contents or a summary for its corresponding ledger entry table. There's only one record in the registered table per posting process. Typically, the name of such a table is the name of the posting function and the word register. The primary key is a field called number, which is an integer. And there are very important fields in registered tables, which are the from entry number and the to entry number, which give us a link back to the ledger entry table and the related postings. The page we typically build for a registered table will be a list page, is also non-editable. Registers can of course also be found within the application. I will look for them by using the keyword registers. I can see my general ledger history, I can see other registers in here, and for example, if I select the general ledger one, I can get the history in this case of a number of different postings that occurred. I can see the number, the posting date, the user ID, the type of posting which happened, and also a from and a to entry number. In this case, different from and to entry numbers to provide different links to different ledger entry tables. But the register table is like a summary of what was posted in the creation of multiple ledger entries. So let's summarize by defining now what's the difference between a journal and a ledger. So if we look again at the journal table, then we know by now that in a journal, a user can insert lines, modify lines, and delete them. And we can consider a journal table like a temporary work area for a user, which means information will not always remain in the journal table. At a certain moment it will be posted and then it will disappear. The table has a compound primary key, which consists out of a template name, a batch name, and a line number. And the line number will be incremented automatically by using the auto-split key property on the page. Then what we'll see is that a user can post the journal lines. So a journal temporarily holds transactional data, and when the journal line is posted, it will be converted into different types of ledger entries. A journal template specifies the underlying journal structure, providing some default information for batches, a sales template, a purchase template, and so on. And a batch is typically to group several journal lines and make them available to specific users. So each user has their own batch on which they can work, in which they will not be interfered by other users using the same journal. So if we have a look at journal templates and journal batches, you can group them. So a journal line belongs to a batch of journal lines, and a batch can belong, of course, to a template, as you can see here on the drawing. If you have a closer look or summarize our ledger tables, then we notice that a ledger or ledger entry table, including also the register tables, are protected tables, which means that no one is able to do any deletes in this table or modify information. Records are not inserted directly into this table, but only via posting routine to make sure that our accounting is still consistent. All transactions are kept for each functional area in ledger entry tables. So for example, for customers, we have the customer ledger entry. For items, we have item ledger entry, and so on. The primary key is called entry number. It's always an integer. And there is also a link back from a ledger entry to the general ledger entry table. And if we allow users to modify or to manually insert ledger entries, then there is no link back to the general ledger.